This feels like such a 360 moment here for me, because the very first video that I ever posted here on my channel was a reaction video to Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey last year, and while I liked that movie more than others, the reason behind it was accidentally the funniest thing that I watched in the entire year, for possibly all the wrong reasons. But my big critique with it was, if the movie had had more of a budget to begin with, I do think that there was potential in Blood and Honey. So when the sequel got announced and I knew that it was going to get a suddenly 5 times larger budget, this movie could actually be a decent movie. While it is the same director and writer, there is now a second writer on board, which I think will massively help the script, because I think you needed somebody with just a little bit more experience in script writing for that first movie, because yeah, the script was not it. And now the characters actually look decent. I've seen how Pooh Bear and Tigger and Owl and Piglet all look in this movie, and I am so happy with how they look. So that's already bonus points for me going into this one. But if you don't know anything about Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 from 2024, let me quickly fill you in. Deep within the 100-acre wood, a destructive rage grows as Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, Owl and Tigger find their homes and lives endangered after Christopher Robin revealed their existence. Not wanting to live in the shadows any longer, the group decides to take the fight to Ashdown, the home of Christopher Robin, leaving a bloody trail of death and mayhem in their wake. Pooh Bear and his savage friends will show everyone that they are deadlier, stronger and smarter than anyone could ever have imagined as they seek revenge on Christopher Robin once and for all. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch this movie about storybook characters turned murderous off camera. So that way, if you too decide that you want to watch this movie, nothing will be spoilt for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, because you then know exactly what is going to happen. And I keep it spoiler free here on my channel.
Hey there demons, it's me, your boy.
It's not awful, and I'm so happy about this. Immediately, the sequel is 100 times better than the original, and I'm going to make comparisons between the original and the sequel for this review, because I need to just put across the point that the 1 year between these two movies has made so much of a difference. Like, in the original, I could not take Pooh and Piglet as our villains seriously because of the way they looked. And now in this, led by Owl, they are a legitimate threat now. Like, Piglet is this, like, adorable, creepy, cute, chubby pig, and I love him so much. Pooh Bear is now an actual hairy bear and doesn't look like he's made out of cheese. Then you've got Owl, who is like a feral owl meets vulture like hybrid thing, and then you get our menace that is Tigger, that wants to go around calling everybody a bitch while he shreds them to pieces like a human chicken. Like, they're an actual threat now, and I love this. Like, if you met the original Pooh Bear and Piglet in the 100-acre wood, you'd laugh your ass off for 5 minutes before you took them seriously. New Christopher Robin, nothing against old Christopher Robin, is so much more likeable and believable in this role. He's now a character who you see has been through some incredibly weird and twisted things that he has seen through rose-tinted lenses up to this point, and he's dealing with trauma, and it makes him vulnerable. And I knew that I had seen Scott Chambers' face somewhere before, and when I checked him out, it turns out he was actually in the 2023 version of Dr. Jekyll, along with Eddie Izzard, who played Nina Jekyll and is the best part of that entire movie. Like, she is great in that. But the difference between Christopher Robin in the first movie, who is just whiny and there to be tortured by Pooh Bear for a while, and this new Christopher Robin, who is a fully fleshed out character who has got so much backstory, it's night and day. The acting from all the characters is so much more believable, and that is partly because of the dialogue and a lot of the action choices. They just feel less forced. Like, you can't tell me, if you've seen the first Blood and Honey, that the group of female friends in there didn't secretly hate each other's guts because of the way that they spoke together. Like, they were not believable in the slightest. And now you've got Christopher Robin, who has a relationship with somebody, and then his parents come into this, and they are believable, understanding parents who, they know that their child is suffering from trauma. And then Christopher Robin has got a little sister in this, and she is also believable as an actual child. I hate when kids in horror movies don't actually come across as being kids, and they are clearly written by an adult who has never had a conversation with a child before, but she's actually really good as well.
He's only a child.
No excuse!
The opening sequence is pretty solid. It reestablishes who everybody is going to be in this movie. You re-meet Pooh Bear, and then Owl, and then you get Piglet, and then eventually the menace that is going to be Tigger. Then you get a little sequence where you meet some of Christopher Robin's acquaintances and friends, and they go off to the 100-Acre Wood because they believe that something has happened, and one of them is actually in a relationship with somebody that is in the opening sequence, so it explains why they are there. And then things happen there, and then the whole middle section is like Christopher Robin's backstory, and then you find out about a doctor who was paying somebody to abduct children so he could experiment on them and turn them into human-animal hybrids. And this is the origin story for the characters of the 100-Acre Wood, and it's actually a pretty decent kind of idea. It's not one that I would have actually thought to go with, if I'm being honest. And now I understand that the whole origin story and the setup is needed, but it does take away from our villains for a while, and you lose that, threat and presence of Pooh and Owl and Tigger, and they're kind of missing for a big chunk of film. So when they do come back and everything completely kicks off and it turns into an actual bloodbath, it's very surprise. And I wish that they had just maintained that little bit of a threat while interweaving it in with the origin story. It's there now, it's there for future movies, so next time, less origin story, more slashy murder killing please from the new hairy yellow bear. I do have a potential theory about something that could happen in movies down the line in this franchise. Now, I will put a little potential spoiler warning at the bottom in case you don't want to know anything about what actually happens in the plot of this movie, and it will disappear when I finish talking. But Christopher Robin has a little sister in this. We're talking a child called Ella, but she likes to be called Bunny. Now, there is a part in this where she comes face to face with Pooh Bear, and he spares her. He kidnaps her, but he spares her and leaves her completely undamaged. Now, I want to know if this is a potential sprinkle of something that could happen down the line. And is Ella, because she's already called Bunny, gonna become Rabbit in, the Pooh crew? That's my thought. I think that this girl is eventually gonna become Rabbit. They do a human centipede too in this movie, and by that I don't mean that we are stapling 15 people together. I mean, there is a casual throwaway comment at the very beginning in this movie where somebody says that Christopher Robin's life has actually been made worse since the movie came out, meaning that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is actually a movie within this universe, and then you see somebody watching this movie, which is crazy. Visually, though this movie has come on leaps and bounds in the last year, I do think that it could do with a little bit more budget just going on its practical and its digital effects. And the examples that I can give are, the practical effects aren't the most realistic looking, when you see all of the body parts in Owl's lair, or when the woman gets her leg trapped in the bear trap at the beginning of the movie and you can tell that the leg is floppy when Pooh goes to snap it. And then when you see the victims of the 100-Acre Wood attack up close, it's fine. It's just giving me mid-budget haunt attraction mask kind of budget. So just a little bit more money into its practical effects could really sell them as being realistic. And I have to give a shout out though to Tigger's tail, because when you see it from afar, it is so cute how it moves. But when you see him up close, it is so obvious that it's been put in post, and it loses that kind of like realism that keeps you like, it's distracting a little bit. Like from afar, great. Up close, oh, Tigger's tail is fake.
Bad kitties.
Quick mention though that Andrew Scott Bell, who was the composer in the original Blood and Honey, is back to do the soundtrack for the sequel, and it was one of my personal highlights when I watched the original movie, because the soundtrack is this great kind of combination between like whimsical fairy tale and then really eerie at the same time, and the narration is back from the first one along with the like cartoony like pop-up sequences, and it gives me very Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Event movie, if you've ever seen it, when Tim Curry does the narration part in that. It just adds to like that whimsical storytelling kind of vibes that you would expect from the Winnie the Pooh stories. It's managed to keep the same levels of gore and violence in the first movie, but how it's worked into the story feels a lot more organic and a lot more authentic rather than the first one, when it did feel like they were trying to boost the kill count a bit in the middle. Now, as a massive, massive fan of the Chucky franchise, one of the deaths in this movie, somebody on the script writing team has watched Chucky season 1, because that death with the dishwasher and the knives is straight out of Chucky season 1. Like, I spotted that and went, I know where you got the inspiration for that one from. Now, the deaths in this are particularly good in the sense that you could replace any of Pooh and the crew with another slasher villain, and they would still work, which is a positive, which means that they're not relying on the names of these characters to actually sell the movie. There's actually some effort gone into the thoughts like behind the deaths.
Scooby-Doo, take note.
Tonally, Blood and Honey has actually found a really good place, and while it is still a campy slasher movie at heart, its villains now do feel like a genuine threat. And this is why you need to stick around, because once the credits start to roll, there is a little scene that's gonna set up some things for potential movies going forward. So they are now a definite threat. And this makes me excited going forward. So in the end, I am actually gonna give Blood and Honey 2 from 2024 a 3.5 out of 5 stars, because what they did is prove me correct. In my first review, I said, if they put more budget into the effects and into the script by adding a second person with a bit more experience, it would make this movie so much better, and that is exactly what they've done. But it's unfortunate because I think that too many people got burned from watching the first movie and are not going to give Blood and Honey 2 a second chance. But they have improved this movie by leaps and bounds, and I can't give enough praise for the fact that they listened to all the criticism, took it on board, and made a better movie. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 from 2024. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are down in the comment section down below. Are you going to skip this one, or is this one that you would actually be interested in? This is me saying, even if you didn't like the first one, maybe consider actually giving this one a go, because they really did take on all the critique and made a better movie. I will leave a link though to justwatch.com in my description bar so you can see where it is streaming in your country. If you would like to know every single horror movie that I watch though, you can also find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, or maybe even stick around and join the horde here on YouTube. But I will be back on Friday with another solo movie review, and this time it is a supernatural horror movie from Thailand that has been on my radar for so many years now at this point, and I'm making an excuse to actually get around to watching it, set in a movie theatre. So until next time, bye.